Since Marco Polo, sparing no bright colors in violent fantasy describing the wonders and beauty of Central Asia, this romantic halo-shrouded edge has been exciting the imagination of Europeans for many centuries. Today we have every chance of translating the increased interest towards us into a valuable tourist resource. This said, unfortunately, not all the natural treasures described by the travelers of the past have survived to our days in their original form. Until recently, countless herds of saigars and kulans roamed the vast expanses of the Great Steppe. In the Tian Shan Mountains, people and snow leopards hunted morels, mountain goats and argali, but their populations did not get smaller. Wildlife seemed capable of reproducing itself endlessly. But once the moment came when, in their offensive on the nature, humans had crossed an invisible red line. In 1979, 40 mammal, 56 avian, and a huge number of plant and small animal species got red-listed as rare and endangered. Nowadays, the state, business, and civil society have to try very hard spending money and withdrawing significant territories from economic management in order to preserve the remnants of their former wealth.
Нужно сказать, что через эту грустную стадию прошли почти все страны мира.
I have to say that almost all countries around the world have passed through this sad stage. Maybe except for those who have not been affected at all by the technological progress and demographic explosion associated with it. In Europe and North America, at the end of the 19th century, many wild animal species were simply destroyed, while others were saved and subsequently restored their populations at the cost of great effort and money. Consolidation of the entire society was required, starting with politicians, governments, scientists, and teachers down to kindergarten teachers. As the main stakeholders and financial donors, the hunters had played a significant role in the process. The massive shift of public consciousness towards wildlife protection is surely a great merit of famous popular scientists, writers, and public figures. Yet even they would not have achieved such success if it wasn't for the solid economic foundation now called sustainable resource management that they base their concepts on. After all, people usually do not appreciate the resources which do not generate any profit. The United States is a good example of that. Their turnover in the hunting, fishing, and ecotourism industry before the pandemic amounted to $143 billion and significantly contributed to increasing animal populations across the country. When I went abroad for the first time, I was struck by wild animals walking along the roads carefree. When a flock of Canadian geese sat down in the parking lot near the supermarket, I simply could not believe it. The table compiled by Dr. Sophie Ledger of the Zoological Society of London shows the population dynamics of certain mammals in Europe over the past 60 years. For instance, the number of alpine goats has grown 417%. Alpine chamois 1000% and European bisons or aurochs 16,000%. The idea of the Red List came to us from the West, although with a 10-year lag. Such innovations have always come to us with some delay. In the Soviet Union, of course, there were no environmental parties, but there were achievements that one can be rightfully proud of. For example, the saiga population restoration called the Kazakhstani miracle all over the world. After the civil war, the saiga were on the verge of extinction, but thanks to robust protection, already in the 1950s and 60s, the number of steppe antelopes restored to 1.5 million, and it became a commercial species. After the collapse of the Soviet nature protection system, the sector got into stagnation. But as new social and economic relations started emerging, the updated ideology and ideas about patriotism appeared as well, and the public environmental consciousness began to slowly gain momentum. Over the past 5 years, our association Tabigat has been dealing with issues related to the rational use of animal resources. An accredited association, we have achieved certain success in terms of sector-specific laws and bylaws. Nevertheless, we are still facing significant challenges which we are not yet able to address. We lack parliamentary representation. This year, Kazakhstan has witnessed great political transformations, and we were offered to participate in establishing the Green Party of Kazakhstan, focusing, as is evident from the title, on ecology. And we, naturally, as an organization that has been promoting rational use of wildlife and sustainable development in Kazakhstan for many years, have joined these efforts and came to understand the need to create such a new political party that will raise these issues in the parliament. In the 70s of the last century, separate groups of environmental scientists began uniting in social movements and, in the end, created their own political parties. They achieved the greatest success in Germany in the 1990s, taking 46 places in the Bundestag. Around the same time, the Green movement split into two directions, systemic and radical. By no means they should be confused. Systemic environmental organizations cooperate with national governments of hosting countries where they implement their environmental projects aimed at conserving and restoring rare animal species, conduct research, and thus operate in accordance with local and international laws. The left-wing radical ecological organizations are engaged in protest actions violating these laws. In certain countries, they are deemed extremist and are popularly known as dark green. The main values of our Green Party of Kazakhstan are very similar to these of environmental parties around the world. It's clean air, clean water, clean soil, sustainable development, and of course, social justice and equality. The confrontation between green and hunting organizations that emerged in the 1970s was almost cleared by the end of the 1990s. In accordance with international conventions, charters of the International Union for the Conservation of Wildlife, as well as United Nations, hunting is now recognized as a sustainable model of environmental management. Therefore, it fully fits the concept of green economy, because today, hunting farms are recognized as productive organizations that not only use but also effectively preserve animal resources. Kazhim, will we have a chance to see the work that you are doing in the fields, forests and mountains? One of the reasons why hunting farms represent a stable model of nature use is that hunting season is quite short, literally 2 or 3 months a year, and the rest of the time hunting farms are involved in promoting ecotourism. First of all, equestrian types of tourism, and in winter it is ski-free riding and other skiing disciplines. Thus, we invite you to take part in the promotion of such tours in the Tastau. We will start our study of the best practices of sustainable tourism with an equestrian hike. To do this, we had to get to the Tastau hunting farm campsite, 14 hours drive from Almaty. The project covers the territory of the Koksu Reserve, Tokta Reserve and 2 hunting farms. Here comes the Bayis Plateau. Will it be scary? No doubt. Not only breathtaking beauty, but also adventures await us on the plateau. 2 days ago, a heavy downpour messed up the road. We are approaching the Wolf Gate Gorge. The descent is getting steeper and steeper. On the left, whitening with snow peaks, there stretches the Tastau Ridge. The road rises to the passes and then dives into deep gorges. Wide alpine meadows alternate with coniferous forests and river valleys. Every once in a while we have to force violent streams. D'Artagnan told Athos that life is meaningless without danger and adventures. Athos replied, "You are still young, D'Artagnan. As you get older, you will realize that it is meaningless, even filled with danger and adventures." Well, this time we have danger and adventures enough for 2 or even 3 lives. Here comes the first representative of the local animal world, Central Asian viper. For adults, its bite is not fatal, although rather painful, but it can be quite dangerous for children. We are in the hunting farm central camp. Tomorrow we will go on an equestrian tour, but today we can examine the vicinities and have a good dinner. There are cozy 2-room suites, and they say there is also a sauna. The additional difficulty of traveling in the mountains is that the weather forecasts rarely come true here. Rain can start and end quite unexpectedly. Sometimes the weather changes several times a day, so it's better to have a raincoat and a waterproof gear cover with you. It's quite cloudy, but we hope after lunch it will clear up. In the next 6 days, the expedition participants will have no time to engage in culinary delicacies. We will have to do with dry hiking rations. Tomorrow we will go down here and cross the river. The fog is clearing up and we can watch animals in binoculars. With some luck, you can see morals, mountain goats, teke, roe deer and even bears. For these dealing with wild animals, binoculars are the most necessary tool, in addition to good physical condition and iron-like patience, of course. A lot of fresh bear tracks. It was here not so long ago. Numbers are boring, but experience shows that without reliable accounting, it is difficult to establish something sustainable, including a hunting farm. To begin with, it is necessary to inventory all wild animals. It turns out to be not as easy as it might seem at first glance. An inexperienced person will almost certainly not even notice a huge bear from a distance of 500 meters, not to mention an alpine ibex. But even these with excellent vision, having seen several animals, will not be able to tell with confidence how many of them live on the entire ridge, how their spatial distribution changes over seasons, and what has to be done to increase or decrease their population if necessary. This is sustainable management. Moreover, the recommendations and standards which are good for one locality can be destructive somewhere else. This is called adaptive resource management, and only a well-trained specialist can count such hidden animals as snow leopard, provided he or she has special equipment. Scientists from the Institute of Zoology of Kazakhstan are monitoring the animal world. Special accounting routes are laid across the examined area fitted with photo traps. During the day, animals hide in thickets, and in the morning and evening they go out to open places. This is the heyday time for zoologists. They carefully scan each gorge with binoculars and log the coordinates of each animal encounter using a special smartphone application. It is also necessary to determine animal sex and age. No doubt, even the most experienced specialists cannot see with their own eyes all animals and birds in a particular area. They harvest a significant share of their data from photo traps. The first day of our expedition is over. We managed to survey 2 gorges. We passed the Big Pass, 3,300 meters above sea level, and have installed 4 photo traps there. We also saw snow leopard tracks there. Checking photo traps is quite exciting. What if this time I managed to get a unique image? Even if the image is quite ordinary, it is still pleasant that such beautiful animals have been preserved in sufficient quantities in our mountains. What role hunting farms can play in the development of ecotourism in the future? There are 10 reserves in Kazakhstan, but tourism is allowed only in their buffer zones. The total area of 7 nature reserves and 14 national parks is 6,400,000 hectares. Recreation and tourism zones inside these specially protected nature areas usually do not exceed 1/3. On the contrary, there are about 700 hunting farms in Kazakhstan, and the area of their premises amounts to 113 million hectares. We have guest houses, guest huts. We also have professional guides, including these capable of accompanying foreign guests. To be able to use them during the entire season, we involve hunting farms in ecological types of tourism. Hunting grounds are regulated based on the servitude or secondary land use rights. If a hunting farm owner wants to develop its ecotourism infrastructure, he needs to rent out recreational zone land. In case there are no such land inside his farm, he will have to change the designated use of the available land plots. Not an easy task, especially for these living in the province. State tourism support may manifest itself in simplifying these procedures. As the head of the National Association, I, among other things, am also a member of the Public Council of the Ministry of Ecology, Geology and Natural Resources. It is an extremely effective agency engaged in discussing almost all sector-specific legal acts. Our association and I, as a member of the Public Council, have the right to propose certain justified amendments to bills explaining what benefits they will bring. Over the past year, we have submitted about 20 such proposals, and the bulk of them were adopted. The hunting farm base camp represents a tourist camp built in the popular Tabigat style. If one does not want going on a lengthy horse journey, he or she can simply take a break from the urban bustle and traffic at the camp itself, wander around picturesque mountain landscapes, examine the river, have a bath in the village-style sauna, take photos, and, if lucky, even see wild animals and birds not far from the camp. It's time for us to leave the Tastau hunting farm. I cannot say that over these few days we have managed to deeply delve into all the intricacies of ecotourism inside hunting farms. Yet a story came to my mind in this regard. When the very concept of private hunting farms was in the works, one zoologist involved in its drafting suggested calling them not hunting farms, but hunting and tourism farms. I think that now life itself is suggesting that that idea had a very deep meaning, and the guy knew what he was saying.